Kuzu Zangpo, you are watching Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program with me, Sonam Rinchen. Our top stories this week. His Majesty the King and His Majesty the 4th Druk Gyalpo graced the 107th National Day in Kanglup, Tashigang. His Majesty the King conferred Buram Lumar to the Prime Minister Tsring Thopge and Buram Map to the eminent member of the National Council, Tasho Tashiwangel. And the government surrendered 3 secretaries to the Royal Civil Service Commission. His Majesty the King graced the 107th National Day in Kanglup. The event was also attended by His Majesty the 4th Druk Gyalpo, Her Majesty the Gyaltsin, Their Majesties the Queen Mothers, and other members of the royal family.
Addressing the nation, His Majesty the King highlighted the significance of observing the National Day. His Majesty said the day is an opportunity to thank our parents for their hard work in building our nation. His Majesty thanked His Majesty the 4th Druk Gyalpo for his selfless service to the nation and offered prayers for His Majesty the 4th King's long life. His Majesty also stressed on the economic challenges that the country is currently facing. His Majesty said good governance should be strengthened in order to address these challenges.
Jungjung legden leten dibe tüsho sobajin te ngachi na dulumbalu gademchi yurura lambi se meoni mal. Tangani bendigi ta talapa guzung gekhabgi chala zebda ngarwalak jungjung legden di tüshuten gubdul. Te toro chala zebdalu gakshe de chenyam ta tansegi tole kade tata sagendibe chala zebigulu Doroti Genkade, the Nature Junjilu Pobis, the Tebe, no sometimes Miola. The Genkadi, Najimi, religion to Lupop Mase, Chitingi Tole, Nature Misigi, Sunshuteni di Kachel.
His Majesty said corruption is one of his biggest concerns.
The Talapa Chala Zebdalu, Maragi Tauda di Nyanka Bomsho Dile. Nyenlele tendi metenga se tebe normal. Tama nyenlele tendi be ngajere gyakab gi chalalu to mepoga se tebe chagelamal. Tabjebe labachin jungi di gyakab de misigi tadin lu zidi be chaji su lejim be zamnaul. Chaji de tuntum gi charngil di borchedo to be zion. The debo the chala di mara madive, pada sube zigubdalu, the tama mi remnim gi nyenlegi tolebe tushoson, zero mahidripchi tolatal. Chaladin dusekalu ze masu san, the toro piso de demigi dubriji mathemachin, ju tanjulu, ngachere miselo pamnida, gekab de jung, kujo kenigi nyankayul. The Nyenle Sodole, Nyenle bomb the Nyenle Chunkus Metombele, Nyenle di Nyenle Berajagol. The Dorotu Shoigale me bomb the Michunku, Japta Yumi the Japta Mimi, Deve Metombele. Two shows of Bachin, Kaindera Beru, Namra Beru, Chimchilu Neni di Kashel.
His Majesty the King said people do not report the corruption cases even when they know about it. This, His Majesty said, would affect the country in the long run.
The Nyenlevo Bomgi Nyankachi Tomel. The Nyankadi Tab Madiu Ton. Karagi Shesa the Tonsa. Yan Nyenlegi la, Yan Tushogi la, Majesty the Tom the Lu. The Anigan K Mibzume, Donlen Mabe, Zida Mata. Yan, the Ka Mashuzumbe, the Vejadabachin, Mi Lejim, Shatsami, Genka Bami, Cha Shumisu, Sem Shinigi Yanka Bomberul. Doromi Laluchigi, Tamtem Zondebe La Mabele, Laluchigin Gade Dada Genka Bak. Pansim ke cha shabdusu matutu pishu dora ju tanjulu kokap thoremi galen yaw machiba gaar chore tepe te tebe yaso bachin te ani gale ro cha shumigi mi genka bamigi mi no shimigi mi su lo pamnigi nyanka yula.
His Majesty thanked His Holiness DJ Khenpo for conducting the religious activities across the country. His Majesty also thanked the Central Monastic Body and armed forces for their selfless service to the nation. Compiled for Pemanamge, Pematsuki for BBS News.
His Majesty the King conferred Bura Lumar to the Prime Minister Sring Thopge. His Majesty the King also awarded Bura Map to the eminent member of the National Council, Tashi Wangel.
Prime Minister Sring Thopge, who is from Ha, started his career in 1991 with the Technical and Vocational Education section under the Education Ministry. He served as a director in the Ministry of Labour and Human Resources prior to joining politics. Tashi Wangel, who is from Bhutan, worked as an economist in the Ministry of Finance in 2000 and as a research analyst with the Foreign Ministry in 2004. He has a master's degree from the University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom. Former Minister Thinley Jamsa was awarded Druk Thukse for his lifetime service to the nation. The Managing Director of Druk Green Power Corporation, Tashi Tsongrinze, was awarded Druk Khorlo for its recognition of outstanding service to the nation in the power sector. The Director of Draksu Vocational Training Center, Jikme Wangmo, the Chairperson of the National Council, Dr. Sonam Kinga, President of the Global Care and Reconstructive Institute from the United States, Margaret Illett, over 100 teachers, lecturers and former civil servants were awarded National Order of Merit Gold for their dedicated and exemplary services to the nation.
I feel deeply honored that His Majesty, in his graciousness, has granted me the National Order of Merit, and that too in my own Demkong, Tashigang, among Tashigang Pas. So I feel that the award is also equally for the people of Tashigang.
It's such an honor and it's such a blessing to be able to receive a medal like this, and I feel like I'm really rewarded for the work that we have done, where I haven't really looked for any rewards. We just wanted to help people. But it comes back like this, which is true happiness. I'm so happy.
His Majesty also gave awards to the civil servants and farmers, recognizing their hard work, dedication and commitment in the field of agriculture. From next year, His Majesty said 3 new awards will be given to recognize extraordinary service to the nation, innovation and creativity, and efficiency and cost saving. Compiled for Chetin Jopchu in Kanglung, Jikmetile, PBS News.
Meanwhile, people of Eastern Bhutan received His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Gyaltsen by offering Tsokchang along the way. Their Majesties were on their way to Kanglum in Tashigang to celebrate the National Day.
En route to Mongar, people in groups at several places along the highway waited with excitement to greet His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Gyaltsen. At Ura in Bumtang, while His Majesty was interacting with a group of people, a mobile phone rang. His Majesty the King asked for the phone and received the call. It was from another man who was waiting at Senghor for His Majesty's arrival to make an offering of Tsokchang. It was 11:40 p.m. when His Majesty and the royal entourage arrived at Lingmithang in Mongar. Dark and cold as it was, the people waited eagerly in great anticipation for their Majesty's arrival. His Majesty stopped for every single man, woman and child at any time of the day or night. Dashu Sangyawanchu from the Royal Privy Council said, offering of Tsokchang is an age-old tradition. Tsokchang involves the offering of locally brewed ara, milk, fruits, and the harvest of the year.
Himalaya regionalu katele du se shunibin dependa tangachira dulura bewachin de shada nuki pana kolu bewachin de shakatulu Tsokchang se didisumbe pi nukatulu show se de yete du disute chumberu kachiberu sipda gaza de tisui kandebe de tinalu tele shinjeda methodist to the pi luxe na bewa chin te chang di zo be didanyam chi disu megi te jen di soe te shimre da disu ka ara pyu di ge be de be luksu du te di zo di te ta 가라 코라 육하기미 디수 가라 수좀 좀 대다 메기기 돌림이 왕아다로 무실리 디퓨디기 데 코라기 대다 메기디수 가디치에비 나세미디 데파 뜬데기 퓨이기 다춘숨 지메남 세대기 나이 디비슈니스 슈니벨
Sokjang is not just the welcome, but villagers also never fail to see off their guest with the same zest. Compiled for Yishing Yuduk, Pemal Hardin, BBS News.
His Holiness the J. Khenpo consecrated the Mani Dungdrup Lobdra in Punakha. Built at the cost of 51 million Nultram, the Lobdra can accommodate 100 monks. The Lobdra has 30 classrooms, 150 rooms and a principal's office. The Lobdra also has a separate kitchen and a dining hall. It was constructed with funds from the Government of India. Along with the Lobdra, His Holiness also consecrated Lekshi Jungni Shedra and a newly constructed prayer wheel in Punakha. The government has surrendered 3 government secretaries to the Royal Civil Service Commission with immediate effect. They are the Cabinet Secretary, Dasho Pendin Wangchuk, the Economic Affairs Secretary, Dasho Sonam Tsering, and the Foreign Secretary, Yishidoji. The 3 secretaries were surrendered to the RCSC for taking a unilateral decision to write a letter to Government of India to resolve an issue on the allegations of corruption related to hydropower projects published by the Indian magazine called Inertia. According to the article, Bharat Heavy Electrical Limited and Bhutan Ventures Trading had struck a deal under which the latter will receive a commission of 1.5 to 1.8% for supply of electromechanical equipment to Punachangchu 2 and Mangdechu projects. BEL, as a government company, is reportedly not authorized to nominate agents.
The cabinet was alarmed to discover a letter sent by the Committee of Secretaries to the Government of India, a letter of protestation, almost demanding the Government of India to resolve an issue. You would also recall that in one of the Indian news magazine, which has featured about 2 or 3 articles that alleged corruption in our hydropower sector, especially with regard to the BEL and a trading company called Bhutan Ventures Trading in Bhutan. And allegations were also made against a senior civil servant in our government. And the protest that the letter carried was to demand the Government of India to address this issue, to put to task the Indian news media. What is deeply concerning for the government with this letter is that it is a unilateral decision of the Committee of Secretaries, where the decision to make this representation was done unilaterally without consultation of the government. The decision of the Committee of Secretaries was arrived over deliberations of 4 meetings of the Committee of Secretaries for over 2 months. And the government feels deeply let down because over these 2 months, the Committee of Secretaries had not informed the government, leave alone consult the government on such an important matter.
The opposition party is asking the government to reinstate the 3 government secretaries. A press release from DPT states that they are calling for the reinstatement of the officers while a transparent investigation process by the Royal Civil Service Commission is being conducted. The government had surrendered the Cabinet, Economic Affairs and Foreign Affairs Secretaries to the Royal Civil Service Commission on 12th of December. The opposition party says the three secretaries were surrendered in the most humiliating manner without giving them the opportunity to defend themselves. It says they are also doubtful whether the cabinet has the authority to dismiss the officers from the position to which they were appointed by His Majesty the King. The release also says the three secretaries have distinguished service records, with two of them having awarded red scarfs by His Majesty the King. It goes on to say the secretaries have reached their positions of the highest ranking civil servants through lifetime of dedication and loyalty to the Tsawasum. The release say that the government's decision has sent a shock wave of fear and a sense of helplessness and insecurity, particularly among the senior officers, who will now construe that their positions are vulnerable to more political whims. The government has surrendered the three secretaries for writing to the Indian government requesting for intervention on allegations of corruption made by Anesia, an Indian publication. According to the cabinet, the letter was written on behalf of the government without informing and consulting the foreign minister or the government. Despite the cold, hundreds gathered to witness the annual Druk Wangil festival at Dochula in Thimphu. Her Majesty the Queen Mother Dorji Wangmu Wangchuk, Her Royal Highness Princess Sonam Dechin Wangchuk, and His Royal Highness Prince Jigil Ugen Wangchuk attended the festival along with the Prime Minister, cabinet ministers, parliamentarians and other dignitaries. The festival is a tribute to the three armed forces for their bravery and commitment to the people and the country. The Techu displayed unique folk and marks dances performed by dancers from the Royal Bhutan Army, the Royal Academy of Performing Arts and the Central Monastic Body. Some of the dances performed are the dances of heroes Pau Mangla, Junpoi Cham, Pau Makcham and Pau Yinle Gelwei Cham. The Dochula Techu was first instituted in 2011. The Bhutan Council for School Examinations and Assessment has received complaints that the Class 12 English 2 paper was leaked. The committee is investigating to establish the fact and submit the report to the higher authorities for relevant actions.
The Bhutan Council for School Examinations and Assessment has received the complaints through phone calls on 13th December after the examinations were over. BCSEA had then formed a committee and had started the investigation immediately.
If the paper has leaked and if it had spread throughout the nation, then it warrants reconduct of the examination throughout I think we have about 48 centers, throughout the 48 centers, which would mean a lot of financial, implication on the whole nation. Not only that, it's going to cause a lot of inconveniences to the candidates, parents, and the public as a whole. And it's also it's going to cause also a lot of problem to the other agencies who rely on us for their activities such as admissions and all those kind of things, RUB, etc.
The rumor going around is that the paper was leaked from one of the private schools. The principal of Pilkil High Secondary School said the rumor is demoralizing for the hard-working and honest students.
It is sure it was leaked because later when I came to know on Tuesday, I called here and there. Yes, people were saying that in bits and pieces, people were getting SMS, this, that, so it was there. But I think it didn't benefit Thimphu. Maybe one or two students, but I don't know what the board or the people who are concerned in this regard, they are going to take action. But then it will be kind of injustice, the one who has studied. I don't know, maybe 5-10% people were benefited, but then other 90-80% who are not benefited or who put efforts at their own, what about them now?
Meanwhile, the need for re-examination will be decided depending on the outcome of the investigation.
Depends. If the school is responsible, then
responsible for the leakage, then that school will be penalized. And we have in the procedure, we will not be able to tell you at the moment what kind of, because we have to look at the degree-wise. We'll have to penalize the school. If a person has been involved, not the school, then that person will be penalized, penalized according to the law of the land.
About 10,450 students from 18 private and 32 government schools had appeared for the Class 12 examination. Ishori Gurung, BBS News.
Following the recent unrest in Chamarchi, an Indian border town near Samchi, movement of people into Samchi has been restricted. This has adversely affected the Samchi orange exporters, as they are not able to bring in workers for their business.
Oranges from Sarbang, Shemgang and Sirang are bought to the Gelufu Orange Depot every day. It is graded, packed, certified and then exported. Orange exporters say that most of the oranges arrive in the depot at late night. Oranges have to be packed and kept ready for export early the next day, but this is not possible as they have to get certification from the Bafra officials. Bafra officials say that they are available only from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. unlike the previous years, where they were accessible whenever they were required. This, exporters say, is affecting timely export of the fruit. Failure to export on time deteriorates the quality and affects business.
Orange work is mostly carried out during late night. Most of the oranges arrive in the depot at 12 p.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m. and sometimes it arrives around 3 a.m. in the morning. We are not allowed to load the packed oranges without their inspection. They do not issue us inspection certificate.
Last year, there was no fixed timing for Bafra officials. Whenever we requested, they immediately visited our depot and inspected our goods. We did not have any problem, but this year, with the usual office timing from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., we are having difficult time to export our goods.
Bafra officials in Gelufu did not want to comment. We tried to contact the concerned officials in the head office, but our calls were not responded. Meanwhile, exporters in Gelufu say the price this year is far better compared to last year. The starting price for a box of small size oranges is 630 Newton this year as compared to 600 last year. Bigger oranges are fetching 823 Newton per box, which is an increase of 23 Newton from last year. Compiled for Karma Wangdi, Tenzin Rapke, BBS News, Gelufu.
Well, that is all we have for you this week. Join us again next week for yet another edition of Bhutan This Week. Until then, it is goodbye from me, and I am Sonam Rinchen.